I think a lot of people understood when Diamond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, it was going to be very, very difficult to achieve that goal, to restructure and actually keep going in business. They're trying to sell off parts of their business, but we do finally have confirmation that things have gone from terrible to abysmal for Diamond Comics. And this does not spell good things for the comic book industry, certainly small publishers and the like, of which we've seen, obviously Image no longer allowing Diamond to wholesale. I think Mad Cave has left Diamond for Lunar. I believe Boom Studios has also done the same thing. So everyone that can abandon ship are abandoning ship, as basically Diamond crumbles before our very eyes, something that was very, very predictable after all the things that happened during COVID-19 and some of the terrible decisions that they've made and some of the terrible business practices that they've been enacting for several years now. Let's get to the details. As reported by the Baltimore Banner, Diamond Comic Distributors is facing the possibility of layoffs and the closure of its Hunt Valley headquarters if it fails to find a buyer by April 1st. The company revealed in a federally mandated notification to the Maryland Department of Labor this week that if the sale effort proves fruitless, it would cease operations, close its main office, and lay off about 168 employees. Diamond told Hunt Valley employees in the federally mandated notice that it was seeking buyers for other areas of its business operations, stating, quote, Diamond Comic Distributors is actively attempting to secure a buyer for its business operations other than its Alliance division. Although we are hopeful to locate a buyer, if our efforts are unsuccessful, Diamond will unfortunately have to cease operations. While we continue to pursue a buyer, the Diamond business will continue as usual. So there you go. We have a date for them to continue operations. They already have, I believe, an agreement with Universal Distributors to buy Alliance Gaming, and I think also the Diamond UK distributor operation in Europe as well. But they still have like the Diamond Toys and Collectibles line that they're looking to sell off. I think they're trying to sell everything off but the comic book distribution and just scale down to only doing that. The problem being that even if they're able to do that, which I don't know that they will be, there aren't probably going to be any comic book publishers wanting to do business with them anymore. We saw the list of all the people that they were credited to, how much money they owed, and it was quite a substantial amount of money as far as the small publishers that they had kind of screwed over along the way. And the ones that can leave have left. Marvel left, DC left, Image left, now Boom is left, Mad Cave is left, IDW's already left, Dark Horses I think has already left. So basically all the major publishers and mid-sized publishers have already vacated. DC had already long ago said you can't even wholesale our comic books. Image has followed course. I will be very surprised if Marvel do not do the same. And everybody that has an opportunity or the option to go somewhere else is going somewhere else. Thankfully, DC was able to bring in competition, which spurred Marvel to bring in more competition to where we don't have a monopoly anymore. And there wasn't a single point of failure when it came to comic book distributors anymore. And we are seeing this company basically crumble before our very eyes. Even if they are able to sell off the additional parts of the company, including the toy parts, I don't think this is going to be salvageable in the end. I just don't think having 200 really, really, really tiny publishers is going to work out, because a lot of retailers also don't want to have to do business with Diamond anymore. And if they're able to just work with Lunar and they're able to just work with Penguin Random House, and they're missing out on a bunch of really, really small publishers that don't really put out very many books that people are even aware of. I guess maybe the biggest one left maybe is Titan. I think Titan is still there. I think a lot of retailers are just not going to want to have to order anything from them because their service is quite frankly so porous, and it has been for quite some time. This has caused a lot of people to question about the future of Free Comic Book Day. I'll be honest, I'm not sure about that, but we did have an article this week kind of covering that, so we'll talk about it now. Sources have told Popverse that Diamond is going ahead with plans for Free Comic Book Day 2025 while it goes through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That decision came despite the event being operated at a loss each year since it started. According to several individuals familiar with the financials of it, although Diamond owns the Free Comic Book Day brand and trademark, it will continue to allow other distributors and publishers to take part in the annual event as it has in the past, such as with DC and its exclusive US comics distributor, Lunar. Now, the interesting thing that you have to remember is we have a hard sell-by date of April 1st. If they are not able to sell off parts of their company and reorganize by then, they will cease doing business operations. The date on Free Comic Book Day 2025 is May, I think it's 25th. I might be wrong on that one, but it's certainly in May. It's after April 1st. So if they cease doing business and they're no longer in operation, I don't believe we'll get a Free Comic Book Day, at least with the publishers that are signed exclusively to them. But we've already had announcements for all the publishers that were there. Certainly we've had announcements from DC, comic companies working outside of Diamond that still plan on doing Free Comic Book Day 2025. If they go under, somebody will acquire whatever parts and pieces are left over. And I imagine part of that will be the Free Comic Book Day trademark. Does that really make money for somebody if you acquire Free Comic Book Day? I don't really think so. As the article mentions, it's run at a loss. And it's not just run at a loss by Diamond. It's also run at a loss by the retailers. That's like one of the dirty little secrets about Free Comic Book Day. Sure, it's free. Not to the retailer, but certainly it's free to the customer. And it's not free to Diamond Comics either. So there really is no money to be made on Free Comic Book Day. It's just marketing for the comic book industry itself. Don't know that Free Comic Book Day lasts past 2025, but if I had to gander a guess, I assume cooler heads will prevail. Somebody will get the rights to the IP for Free Comic Book Day and all that kind of stuff, and they'll share it out like they're doing right now, or at least Diamond's doing right now. And Free Comic Book Day will probably continue operating past 2025. But it's not a guarantee because Diamond might not even be in operation anymore, and they are the ones that own the trademark and everything that goes along with Free Comic Book Day. Somebody else acquires it, and they're like, hey, DC, you got to pay us money if you want to do Free Comic Book Day. And DC's like, yeah, fuck you. Or sure, we'll do it this year, but never again type of thing. You never know with these days. So I would say Free Comic Book Day, not guaranteed either this year or into the long term. But we don't know yet because we don't know the final outcome of all this. We just know that Free Comic Book Day happens after the deadline. Now, why is all this happening? I think a lot of this is happening because Diamond became a very arrogant company. They didn't think they had to improve. They were a monopoly. They knew that there was no other business in town to go to if you wanted an alternative to them, and they could do basically whatever they wanted. When there was competition that was brought on board, they never changed. They never got better. They never became a better distributing company, and now we're seeing them fall apart. There are lots of stories out there. I thought this one was interesting. It was from a newsletter on Bleeding Cool recently from Rod Lamberti of Rodman Comics in Iowa, and he had a story about the one time his comic book shop almost went out of business and the part to play that Diamond, or at least Jeppy Enterprises, had to play in it. The closest my store ever came to closing was due to a fallout with Alliance Games years ago, Diamond's sister company at Jeppy Family Enterprises. In short, Alliance told me they could have my terms with Diamond reviewed, even though it had nothing to do with Diamond, and everything for both companies have been paid for. My lease was up in a few months, and I thought I was not going to be bullied. So I emailed something along the lines of, this is like if Walmart ripped me off and threatened to ban me from their stores. Why would I want to keep doing business with them? I thought I would limp along to the end of my lease, not be able to sell any new comics, and be done. In my mind, it was insane. A comic store is going to not be able to sell comics because of a gaming vendor, which was a sister company to Diamond. It went higher up, and we made peace. But I wondered how many other people this had happened to, who had joined or stayed in the comic book business if it was not just Diamond or nothing for comic book stores. And there you could see Jeppy Family Enterprises and his sister company that had nothing to do with Diamond. Obviously, he had business dealings with both of them. And because they were upset with him, they were going to try and take it out on him by going to the other part of Jeppy Enterprises, basically leveraging the fact that they were a monopoly. And they knew that he was a comic book shop. And there was literally no way that he could keep operating as a comic book shop without them. And they were going to try and basically take his livelihood away. Now, thankfully, in the end, cooler heads prevailed, and he was able to work something out. But those stories are not abnormal. The hubris of them, knowing that they were the only one in town, the only game when it came to comic book distribution, made them become complacent, maybe them become arrogant, and it made them never provide good service. And when I say good service, I mean good customer service, good packaging, good invoicing, good delivery. There was lots of problems across the board. Most people had to deal with this kind of tyrannical comic book distribution company that never wanted to provide good service and essentially operated as a loose cannon waiting to take down the entire comic book industry. And now in the end, they're the ones going down. Comic books survive because of the leadership of Jim Lee and DC Comics, showing the way, bringing competition online. Marvel followed suit. And once competition was allowed to breed and thrive within comic book distribution, Diamond Comics is no more. And I don't believe they're going to make the April 1st deadline. But if in chance they do, I don't think they're going to survive that much longer. We're just basically watching this company crumble to the ground piece by piece down to their very foundations, and then it will be no more. And it will be something that we talk about in 20 years. Remember when Diamond Comics was a monopoly? How stupid was that? Remember when Diamond Comics destroyed everything that they had fucking delivered because they refused to upgrade their packaging? Remember when Diamond Comics was fucking overcharging everybody? Remember when Diamond Comics made you pay a fee just to get your comic books on time? What a fucking shithole of a business this thing was. And while I'm certainly not happy that 168 people will likely be unemployed in the not too distant future, and I'm certainly not happy that a lot of small publishers probably won't have an alternative to go out there if they still want to distribute into local comic book shops, I am happy that a bad business got put to task and failed because they were a bad business. That doesn't mean that this is good for comic books, but it is good for a lot of retailers out there that don't want to ever have to deal with these guys again because they were that awful. Interesting story there from Mr. Lamberti. Things are going from terrible to abysmal, as if things could actually get worse at Diamond Comics. If you like what we're doing, providing the news, perspective, reviews, all that kind of stuff, and you would like to be part of the Think Critical family, help us keep the lights on here, keep the show running, the best place to do that is Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. You show up there. We have awesome podcasts depending on the tier that you show up on. We've got extra bonus videos and all that kind of stuff. You find the one that's right for you, and you get to be a part of the Thinking Critical family as well. Hope to see you there very soon.